Hey, it's Kristen again. This is a second installation of a series that we're hoping to do just to kind of explain some helpful things for church members who are looking to bless people who are in medical crisis. Just a quick little blurb about me. I'm a cancer survivor, and my church was instrumental in my treatment and healing process, and so I have a few insights as to what's helpful and what's not. And today I want to talk about what not to say. And so this particular video is for people who are genuinely wanting to know, how do I help? How do I not help? How do I know what to say, know what not to say? For people who aren't interested in doing this particular type of ministry, maybe this isn't the video for you, but this is just going to be about what not to say to somebody who's in any kind of medical crisis. Some things that were said to me and some things that I've heard other survivors and other patients complain about and kind of be hurt by. So I want to say this as much in love and as much as with grace as possible. But I also want people to be aware that your words have impact on the mental and physical well-being of these people. So let's do the best we can to love each other well and to make a difference in people's lives. This is a very big deal. The first thing that I would caution people against saying is asking, what is your prognosis? A prognosis is the expected outcome of a particular medical condition. And I was asked this very many times, even by other cancer survivors, which was kind of shocking to me because it was the one question that just shook me to the core. I was never given a prognosis, but also statistics. Most patients know kind of what the statistics say of what their condition could possibly be. And so it's just a very personal thing to ask somebody what their prognosis is. It could be a good prognosis or a bad prognosis. Nobody really, you don't have to know that in order to care for a person. And so if they're willing to offer that information to you, then by all means, be quick to listen, be quick to sympathize. But at the same time, don't be the one that asks that question because it makes that person dwell on the possible bad outcome. It's a scary thing to ask. That's the bottom line for that one. The second thing I would caution against doing is giving advice when you haven't been asked. It's a hard thing to be a patient. And there's multiple doctors involved usually, and nurses and care teams galore that they're constantly pouring into you what you need in order to get through your crisis. And a lot of times patients are very well informed as to what they should and should not be doing. Especially in a cancer situation, they usually have very good education for patients. And so they know what they are allowed to do, what they're not supposed to do, what's a good idea, what's helpful, what's not helpful. Also, if there's a good doctor-patient relationship, there's that communication going on with the doctor where that doesn't really need to be interfered with. So, for instance, somebody was very pushy about bone broth for me when I was going through chemo, and I could not tolerate bone broth. But every time I would go to church, this person would try to push some bone broth on me every single time. And I understood the heart behind it, and so I was appreciative of the heart, but it just doesn't always help to give advice. And it can be actually hurtful whenever all you constantly hear from people is, have you tried this? Have you thought about this? Have you looked at this? Have you possibly, gone this route? Or I've done this, this, and this, and it helped me, and I think it would help you too. Well, maybe that's the case, but unless you're being asked, it's probably a better idea to just listen. That's a very good rule for just about any situation in life, I think, is to just listen. The third and final thing that I would be cautious about, and this is, I say this with humor, but at the same time, it's a very serious thing. My favorite card that I received when I was sick came from a very, very, very dear friend who knew my heartbeat and knew my sense of humor. And it said, I promise if you get lemons, I promise I will not tell you about my friend who got lemonade and died. And that sounds funny, but at the same time, a person who's undergoing a medical crisis does not need to hear about you or your family member or your friend who went through the same thing and died. Now, that being said, if you do have a friend or a family member who's going through the same thing and they have done well, that's something you might want to consider saying. Say, there is hope. I believe you can do this. Be careful about that as well, but absolutely be prayerful about what you say. Be prayerful about what you share. most of the time, the best thing to do is to listen. Most of the time, patients have already gotten information overload. They don't need you to tell them to do goat yoga and acupuncture and all the essential oils and all the turmeric and bone broth and juicing, and it gets overwhelming after a while. The patient gets exhausted. It's frustrating for them, for the family members. Sometimes it's just downright hurtful. And we never, as a Christian, as somebody who's looking to take care of souls, we never want to be hurtful. And so if you could just be prayerful about that, things that you can say instead. I'm sorry you're going through this. If you mean that and they hear that, it's heartfelt, that's usually very well received. The other thing is, what can I do? If you're willing to help this person, you can always say, what can I do? I wouldn't say, call me if you need anything. Unless that's your norm for you and that person, where you actually do call each other when you need something, the better thing to do would be to say, what do you need right now? And maybe they have a list in their mind of things that they actually need. That would be very positive and very helpful. But quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, because sometimes patients are undergoing grief and they might not behave the way you think that they should. Quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, and be prayerful about how you're going to minister to this person and their family. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening. And I hope that this is helpful. I hope that people are able to kind of understand where I'm coming from as a former patient, and maybe this will give you some tools in your arsenal to best care for people in your ministry who are undergoing medical crisis. Thanks, and God bless.